Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive.
Always ready.
Today, we're going to be tackling a tough one.
Oh.
Yeah, we're looking at suffering.
Mm-hmm.
But, through a spiritual lens,
Right.
we've got this sermon. It's from a pastor. Not sure who exactly, but
Got it.
he had some pretty intense things to say about why we go through hard times.
It's a question that's puzzled people for centuries, really.
Totally. And this pastor, he just dives right in
He does.
with this idea of, a divine strategy.
Okay. A divine strategy.
Yeah, it's almost like
Him intrigued.
God's got this plan, right?
Uh-huh.
And sometimes that plan involves putting obstacles in our way. Not in a mean way, though. More like,
More like a test.
yeah, like a test or even
A lesson.
a lesson. Exactly.
It's a common thread in a lot of faiths.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. The idea that trials and tribulations are meant to refine us.
Okay. So it's not just this one pastor saying this.
Not at all. It's a pretty universal concept.
So, even the bad stuff can be good for us in the long run.
That's the idea. It's about growth,
But then he says something that really tripped me up.
Oh. What's that?
He says that the suffering that's part of God's plan, it's actually pleasing to God.
I see.
I mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
How can a loving God be pleased by our pain?
Right. It seems contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah, I kind of messed with my head a little.
Well, let's look closer at what he's actually saying.
Okay.
His exact words are, that which you are going through, it's pleasing God.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty direct.
But it's not that God enjoys seeing us suffer.
Okay, good.
Uh,
Because that would be messed up.
it's more about seeing our struggles as opportunities
Opportunities?
to grow stronger in our faith, to
Mhm.
develop character,
I guess I can see that.
to ultimately draw closer to Him.
Okay, so it's about the bigger picture, not just the immediate pain.
Exactly. He even compares it to the refining process of gold.
Oh, yeah. How it has to go through fire to become pure.
Exactly. The suffering is like that fire,
Intense.
but it can lead to something beautiful and valuable.
Right. So maybe suffering can have a purpose,
Hmm.
but how are we supposed to deal with it while we're going through it?
Good question. The pastor offers some practical advice on that, too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he tells us to cast out all your burdens unto me.
To God.
Directly to God.
Just hand them over.
Basically, yeah. It's about surrendering our worries and fears.
That sounds easier said than done.
It definitely takes practice, but it can be incredibly freeing.
So we just give God all our problems and he takes care of them.
Well, not exactly. The pastor makes a distinction between the burdens God allows and the ones he intervenes in.
Wait, what?
It's like he's saying, okay, this one you need to work through, it'll make you stronger, but this one, I got this.
So we don't just sit back and wait for God to fix everything.
Nope. We still have to play our part. It's a partnership.
Okay, so it's not just passive resignation, but active surrender.
Exactly. It's about trusting that God is working things out, even when we can't see the whole picture.
But what about when we pray for relief and nothing happens?
The age-old question of unanswered prayers.
Exactly. I mean, the pastor even talks about the Apostle Paul.
Yes, and his thorn in the flesh.
Paul begged God to take it away, but God said no.
Right.
Honestly, I'd be pretty frustrated if that were me.
I think anyone would be. It challenges our idea of prayer as a vending machine.
A vending machine.
You put in your request, you expect a specific outcome,
Oh, right. I get it.
but what if God's no is actually a redirect?
A redirect. What do you mean?
Maybe, like with Paul, that thorn served a greater purpose.
Interesting.
Maybe it kept him humble or deepened his dependence on God.
So it's not about God ignoring us, but about him having a different plan.
Exactly, a plan we might not understand in the moment.
Okay, so unanswered prayers aren't necessarily rejections.
Right. They can be invitations to see things from a different perspective.
That's a helpful way to look at it.
And it's something you can apply to your own life.
Think about a time when you prayed for something and it didn't work out the way you expected.
Exactly. Looking back, can you see how that no might have been a blessing in disguise?
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
It's easy to get caught up in the disappointment,
For sure.
but sometimes those closed doors lead us to something even better.
Okay, that makes sense. But the pastor also talks about how unanswered prayers can cause people to doubt.
Yes, that's a real danger. When we're hurting and our prayers seem to go unanswered, it's natural to question
Question our faith.
even our faith or our spiritual leaders.
He even mentioned people shopping around for a pastor whose prayers seem more effective.
It happens, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but he cautions against that kind of thinking.
Why is that?
It misses the point entirely.
How so?
Some trials are meant to stay.
Really?
Yeah, and our focus should be on seeking understanding and growth, not a quick fix.
So it's not about finding someone who can magically make our problems disappear.
Exactly. It's about deepening our relationship with God no matter what we're going through.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But the pastor's final point is probably the toughest one to swallow. He says that the hardships that are part of God's plan, they're actually good for us.
Yeah.
How can something that causes so much pain be good?
I know, it's a hard concept to grasp. But think of it this way. What if those hardships, those challenges, those painful experiences are the very things that push us to grow the most?
I never thought about it like that.
It's like a muscle.
A muscle.
Yeah, when you work it out, it gets sore, right?
Right.
But that soreness is a sign of growth.
So you're saying that our struggles are like spiritual workouts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They push us to become more resilient, more compassionate, more reliant on God.
Okay, so even though it might not feel good in the moment,
Right.
the struggles we face can actually shape us into stronger, more faithful people.
That's the idea. It's about finding meaning in the midst of our trials.
And recognizing that even in the darkest moments, there's potential for growth and transformation.
Exactly. It's not about pretending that the pain isn't real, but about looking for the lessons and the growth that can come from it.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
So if we accept that some suffering is meant to remain, how does that change our approach to hardship?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Do we fight against it? Do we try to escape it? Or do we lean into it?
Lean into it.
Yeah, seek to understand its purpose,
Yeah.
to see what God might be trying to teach us through it.
So it's not about passivity, but about actively engaging with our struggles.
Precisely. It's about trusting that even in the midst of hardship, God is present and working in our lives.
That's a really powerful message. Well, folks, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive. We hope this conversation has challenged you to think about suffering in a new light.
And to see it not just as something to be endured, but as a potential catalyst for spiritual growth.
So next time you're going through a tough time, try to remember what we talked about today. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And most importantly, keep seeking God's face, even in the midst of the storm.
He's there with you, even when you can't see him.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.